The British Army has put an order for cap badges for its soldiers on hold. The reason, it fears, China could install bugs in these caps to track its soldiers. Now, a cap badge is a little bigger than a 5 rupee coin. This might sound straight out of Mission Impossible, but this seems to be a fact. And I have with me here in the studio today Lieutenant Colonel Rajan Pavitran, cybersecurity expert and former member of India's Military Intelligence Corps, to explain more. Colonel Pavitran, cap badges with bugs in them, are the British paranoid or is this reality?
Okay, so there is no evidence that there are bugs in them. But if the British are being paranoid, we need to take note because they are definitely technologically ahead of India.
Right.
And if they are sensing a danger, we need to pause and think, why are they acting in that manner? Is it real paranoia or is there, but if you look at IoT,
right,
miniaturization,
yes,
5G, I don't think these are, idle fears. And there is a reason for that. China has become a manufacturing superpower.
Yes.
Okay. They started creating products.
Right.
And they have now started, competing with the West on intelligence, especially technical intelligence gathering. They also have a new law. They've put out 2 sets of laws where all Chinese citizens and all Chinese industries have to cooperate with the CCP for protecting Chinese national security interests. And I think the British are merely taking note and they're being very careful.
As a lot of other Western countries are, because there have been reports recently of the US, of course, has cracked down on TikTok, which is one of the most popular social media apps anywhere in the world. There are a number of Western European nations which are keeping Chinese hardware out of their system. I recall this debate in India, Colonel Pavitran, about 15 years back when the National Security Advisor pointed out the dangers of embedding Chinese hardware in our ICT networks. Is that still a worry, or have we completely managed to remove foreign influences out of our ICT hardware?
So I notice you have carefully, said that it is not China, foreign.
Yes.
Okay, because what are our national interests? Is China our only danger? What about the West? What about other nations? Can they be dangerous to us? When I joined the army, and the Indian Constitution says we protect the nation against all threats.
Right. So firstly, you explain, Colonel Pavitran, sorry to interrupt you, but explain what ICT hardware is.
So ICT is information communication technologies. Presently, we are in the information age.
Right.
So what is this information age all about? It is of network technologies changing and giving intelligence to everything, And this is revolutionized the world. And they say there's going to be a 4th industrial revolution.
Yes.
What is this 4th industrial revolution? What is AI? These are things which we need to get into much deeper. Because the world, as we, industrial era, the whole society transformed.
Yes.
Now in the information age with AI, big data, data being the new oil, 5G, etc., going to come in, it is going to transform things beyond our imagination. Right. And the beauty is it is going to be at a much faster pace than what we imagined. So the British are being cautious. Like you said, our National Security Advisor foresaw.
Yes.
Now in one single word, no. We have done nothing. We have gone to accelerated, into absorbing those technologies. And in spite of the Prime Minister, saying, I think 2-3 years back, where he cautioned the nation on threats coming from cyberspace,
yes,
we seem to have done no action. In fact, our DPDP Act, I doubt whether we have been, it has been created to protect Indian national security. This, that act seemingly is to protect business interests of, corporates.
Explain to us why the DPDP Act does not protect Indian consumers and why it seems to cater to corporate interests, as you say.
So people have written about cyber sovereignty.
Yes.
And one of the central concepts of cyber sovereignty is the data needs to be localized. Okay. So if you allow the data to go beyond your shores into foreign shores,
yes,
and in an interconnected world, how can your laws apply? So that is the first thing.
So data localization is a very important.
It's a very important, topic.
So for the uninitiated, data localization is when you store all the data that's generated from the devices that you own. You store that data locally within the country, and it does not reside on a foreign server somewhere.
So it is not as simple as that. If you look at data, there is a huge sort of network Okay, from when you say that when you study computers and interconnected this, you say there are different layers of appliances,
Yes.
computers. There is software, the hardware, the whole gamut. So today there are only two cyber powers, okay, in the world, which is China and US.
Right.
Okay. So there is an interesting report called Cyber Power Index by the Belfer Kennedy Center.
Yes.
Which they take it out, and they clearly show India belongs, although we claimed that we were a superpower, we belong to a quadrant which says we are low on capacity, and more alarmingly, we are low on intent. Low on capacity, okay, fine.
You can fix that.
You can fix it. But low on intent is a big problem. Okay.
And at the low on intent part, is it a function of us not really knowing or not caring, or the fact that there are vested interests at play?
So definitely it's not, at least 10 years back, we can say that we did not know. But in the last 10 years, a lot of us people have made people aware that this is a danger. The Prime Minister has accepted and said,
Yes.
there is a danger. After that, still, if it is low on intent, it definitely has to be vested interests.
So when you said 10 years that we know of the kind of dangers in foreign agencies snooping on people, citizens, government officials, we have Edward Snowden to thank for that.
Absolutely.
In 2013, he came out with that set of revelations which said that.
Yes. So Edward Snowden, 1,000 years hence, will be
Yes.
like Jesus Christ. Okay. He is the Jesus Christ of the information age.
Yes.
The guy who...
The Messiah who...
Yeah, the Messiah showed the world that,
Right.
this great discovery doesn't make the world flat. It's not a
Yes.
global village. And
Right.
you are going to descend into huge dangers, human race itself. Because finally, when you say that, will it finally affect the powers, those Western countries itself? Absolutely. Because surveillance is something, when that sort of power comes into hands of
Yes.
few people, human nature is such that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
So a lot of these surveillance technologies were born out of the war on terror, the need to fight terrorism, for which you set up this massive surveillance architecture so you could monitor the movement of terrorists. But that very quickly began to be adapted for mass surveillance of people as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kanpal.
Now, this is something which I'm not sure of, because 1984, that novel,
Yes,
it preceded the global war on terror.
right.
And the author could clearly see surveillance going to take over the world.
Yes.
And if you look at the genesis of the internet, this came out of the Vietnam War, where there was no
Yes.
terror.
Right.
But it was a technology to control population by monitoring them. So I doubt whether, the war on terror was an excuse used to accelerate surveillance.
Right. But the fact is that you have entire nations today, like you mentioned so correctly, that the two superpowers, one, the only superpower and the superpower in waiting, China if you call, these are information powers as well. The United States is there, of course, and China is catching up very rapidly. They have this great firewall, the great Chinese firewall.
So when you see the narrative, we consume English media.
Yes.
We, the elite of this nation, we consume English media. We do not consume Chinese, media. We don't consume Russian media. We don't consume.
Yes.
So that's a narrative which we have, taken in. Is that the correct narrative? That Great Wall of China was just protecting its interests.
Right.
But if you examine things critically, the Chinese were cautious because they, knew those imperial and colonial powers.
Yes.
If you look at the history of the Chinese people, they were always wary of the West. But our narrative was, we took on a narrative that, they benevolently gifted to us because Mahatma Gandhi, did non-violence. Chinese narrative was not that.
Right.
Chinese narrative was we had to fight for this every time.
Yes.
And they were always in opposition to the West.
Right.
And if you look at the Western narrative, they always said that, China is going to be a danger.
Right.
Okay. Now, for the first time, I also noticed that Canada has said that India is going to be on equal danger at par with China.
Yes.
So maybe the narratives might start changing. Let's see.
The Western narratives, you mean, would start changing?
Yeah. Because today, till date, what is the Western narrative is India is benevolent, non-aligned. But
Yes.
what is our narrative about the West? We are friends.
Right.
Most of our people aspire to go there. Our children go there. They study there, and
Yes.
it's a very benevolent.
We have
sort
a
of-
lot of values that are very
which
akin to
we
the
have
West.
imbibed from them,
Yes. Which
and we
have
don't see
imbibed
them
and-
as
yes.
per se adversaries.
Yes.
But I have written this paper, which I have said it is a latent power potential of India, which the others see. which we have to realize. We dominate that Indian Ocean.
Yes.
We sit right in the center and we control the, if you become a naval power, if that largest nation in the world, if you start rising, if you see Western, they clearly say, intent can change. It is
Yes.
capabilities which matter.
Capabilities which matter. But, talking about capabilities, Colonel Pavitran, what are the kind of capabilities you would like to see India develop in the coming few decades when, we are on the march towards becoming the world's third largest economy by the end of this decade, if not earlier? What are the capabilities we must put into place right now to ensure that we have a fair amount of autonomy, digital autonomy, and you're not surveilled upon by these kind of devices, and certainly not by cap badges that are manufactured by some Chinese company? What are the things that you would put into place? What are the foundational technologies that you will put into place to ensure some amount of sovereignty that we exercise on our products and our services?
Okay, see, firstly, we have to become a product nation.
Right.
We are now a services nation.
Yes.
Okay, we have to have our own products.
Hardware. We must have the
not
hardware,
only hardware,
and the software.
and the software, and we have to do all this simultaneously.
Right.
So China did it over the last 20 years. Since we know how they did it, we have got a ready-made this, so we don't have to explore how do we find that place. We can do it if the intent is there. But I don't think the intent is there. That is frightening.
There is no intent, you're saying, to create a fairly sovereign, robust digital architecture that stands independent of the rest of the world.
So, if you look at the Belfer report of 21 and 22, Vietnam and India were in the same quadrant.
Right.
Low on capacity, low on intent. Now, 1 year later, Vietnam moved from the they remained low on capacity, but they very rapidly went to another quadrant which said high on intent.
Right.
India remained low on intent.
Right.
Okay, and that is a very extensive study.
So then define, Colonel Pavitran, for us, when you say high on intent, what are the steps that, say, you would see the government taking that would then mark us as being serious about creating data sovereignty or digital sovereignty?
Okay, so the government has declared Atmanirbhar.
Yes.
Okay, Atmanirbhar is because they have realized that if you do not own the technology, you cannot be sovereign.
Right.
But it has been restricted to within the defense, military. Okay, and who have you given this responsibility for Atmanirbhar? Secretary of Defense Protection.
Right.
The DPSU is under him.
Right.
And the DRDO. These are the people involved. Aren't they competitors to that innovation economy taking shape? Will an organization willingly sacrifice their monopolies and interests to create an innovation ecosystem? Can an innovation ecosystem happen under the GFR? So I clearly bring out, although they have said we need to do, the actions don't show that. Can you create an innovation ecosystem without a strategic venture capital fund? Which is that venture capital which will catalyze development of technologies critical
indigenous, innovative innovations, indigenous technologies.
Yes, because see, there are foundational technologies.
Right.
Now, you're not getting to the foundation. You're only playing in layer 7 where, for example,
yes,
Bill Gates, he has said, Indian innovators should build on the foundational AI, which is
Western
there in micro.
AI.
So clearly. So in the ICT, it's also the same. Whatever innovation is on foundational things which are on the Western this. Today we have said, China is a danger, let us now shift to West. But is that to our advantage? We've just barely 75 years back escaped from colonialism.
Absolutely.
So why do you want to go back there?
We've just escaped from colonialism and we could be heading to a new form of digital colonialism, as Colonel Pavitran mentioned, but that's all we have time for in this segment. I will continue my conversation with Colonel Pavitran on a longer interview format that you can watch on the News 9 Plus app very shortly.